I know that many of you out there have unfiled tax returns, years of unfiled tax returns. You know, you get behind 1 year and then it kind of snowballs into multiple years. I know, I get it. My team and I, we've heard all the stories, okay? And I know that for some of you, the IRS has already started that SFR process. They have informed you that they're going to now take matters in their own hands, file these tax returns for you, typically in the least advantageous way possible, giving you no deductions, giving you no credit for dependents or anything like that. Others of you are not in that system yet, that SFR system yet. I do believe that you will. They will get to you eventually. The IRS has a lot more funding now than it did 5 or 10 years ago, and they're going to be investing a lot of resources in getting people in compliance. And compliance starts with filing your required tax returns. If you have any questions about the SFR program the IRS has, that's a program where they do tax returns for non-filers for them. Check out my video here at the top of the screen. But whatever the case, I want you to know some things. If you have unfiled tax returns. First thing, don't freak out, okay? The problem is fixable. I'm not saying that everything's going to be kittens and rainbows and the IRS is just going to say, hey, file your returns and we'll forgive all your tax debt. It doesn't work like that. Okay, there's a system here. And I want to describe what that system is to you, okay? First thing you need to know is that the IRS does have a policy statement. Policy statement 5-133 that I'm going to show you here on screen. That essentially says that in general, the IRS will not go back beyond 6 years for unfiled tax returns, right? They can, right? It's just whoever's working the case would need approval from their manager. We have seen it before, okay? But it is pretty darn rare. Why does the IRS have this policy statement? IRS has this policy statement because what it wants to do with folks who have gotten behind on their tax returns is they want them, to have their come to Jesus moment, repent of their sins, right, and get back on the good foot. And they know that when somebody has 10, 20 years of unfiled returns, that's a very daunting thing to have to file all those returns and pay the tax for all those tax years. That's why they have the 6-year rule. Where they say, look, do the last 6 years and we'll work with you, right? Just with those. An important caveat here is that states generally do not have an equivalent of policy statement 5-133, okay? And states may file SFRs for you for years the IRS didn't. The IRS may file state versions of SFR. States do these too. The IRS may have filed SFRs for you for years the state didn't. And states don't have a 6-year rule generally. They'll often say, hey, you got to file all of these. Or it's at their discretion, right? They don't have like a set policy. But whoever is assigned to your case at the state may say, okay, well, give us the last 8 or maybe back to 2010 or something like that, right? And then they'll talk to you about a resolution on your tax debt. All right. Now, so let's say you figure out what years you need to file, right? Generally, it's the last 6 years plus any years beyond that for which the IRS filed SFRs for you, or the state filed SFRs for you, in which case you'd want to file those years with the state, not the IRS, though, if they're beyond the 6 years. Well, then you got to file these returns, folks. I've created several videos on my channel with the mechanics of that. I'm not going to get into that here because I've created half-hour length videos on what that looks like. You can access one of those videos here at the top of the screen, or you can go on my YouTube channel homepage. Where am I? And then you scroll down here, and down here somewhere, there's here's my top all-time unfiled tax return videos, right? Watch these videos, right? More detail about what, mechanically what to do if you have unfiled tax returns. Especially this one here, the first one, and also this one here, where it says back taxes, how to file back taxes, avoid penalties and all that, okay? Those get into the mechanics of what to do, right? How to file your returns. Then, once your returns are filed, whatever tax liability you show on that return would replace the SFR typically, right? So typically the SFR assessment that the IRS has done won't be sky high, right? Based on your gross 1099s, no business deductions, no itemized deductions, just the standard deduction. So you're going to come in, file original returns to replace that SFR, right? Or establish the liability if the IRS hasn't done an SFR yet. There will be penalties and interest. The IRS will assess, fair to file, fair to pay, and interest. There'll be some interest there. You might have a case for penalty abatement. It depends. You have to show reasonable cause. There's also first time abate, which is if you're clean, in recent years, they might abate one of those years. But, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to have this tax liability. But you may not. If you're like W-2 and you've been like withheld, you'll get your refunds for like the past 3 years, right? So that's fine, right? But if you do owe a liability to the IRS at the end of this, you got to figure out what to do with it. Okay. And that is called tax relief. And for the details on all that, you'd go back to my YouTube homepage, okay, and watch my all-time tax relief videos, okay, where it just talks about, tax relief options and things like that. And I would say start with, this one's good, Tax Relief Explained. I think this one is more recent, maybe a little more comprehensive. More graphics. Anyway, basically got to figure out how you're going to deal with the tax debt once you have it. I mean, if you have the means to pay it off, sorry, got a cough. Might as well, right? IRS money is expensive right now. Interest rate is 8% as of the time of this video. There's a failure to pay penalty on top of that. Or if you qualify, you could qualify for some other, instead of paying it off, if you can't afford to pay it off, whatever, you could look at your tax relief options, right? It's going to be based on your current financial situation. There's the offer and compromise. This is an agreement with the IRS to settle your tax debt for less than you owe. Plenty of videos. I have a whole playlist about this on my channel. Currently non-collectible. What if you can't afford to pay the IRS anything right now? Okay, you're getting this CNC status. Some people call it hardship status. It's a temporary status, but if you do stay in it, right? If, hey, you're just you can't afford to pay now? Oh, a few years down the line, IRS says, hey, can you still not afford to pay us? Yeah, I still can't afford to pay you. Look at my finances, right? You can stay in it. You stay in it until your tax debt drops off. Tax debt drops off. Installment agreements obviously are an option as well. There's full pay installment agreements that mean you're paying everything off. And there's also partial payment installment agreements that means you're not paying everything off. You're only paying a portion of what you owe. Of course, you have to qualify for that as well based on your, based on your financial situation. I have videos about tax relief here on the upper left-hand side of your screen, my whole tax relief playlist I mentioned earlier. And if you're still in the stage of getting those tax returns done, check out the playlist on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. If you need help with this stuff, you want us to handle your back tax prep professionally, figure out the best way to go to move forward, give us a call at 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829. Or visit us at choicetaxrelief.com and click free consultation there at the top. All right, folks, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.